Welcome to our sixth webinar. I'm Javier Ortiz. I'm your mentor throughout this program. And before we begin, just a few reminders. Just want to remind everybody that our DEND session 963, this is the group where this is the channel where our study group resides. And each Tuesday, and every Tuesday, I'm posting a weekly roundup where you find all the lessons you have to go over during that week, any scheduled events, along with links to our webinar, and a link to schedule a one-on-one mentor meeting with me, right? So where we can go over your personalized learning plan and where I can answer all of your queries. All right, with that being said, let's get started. So today is going to be an intro to AWS and implementing data warehouses with AWS. So let me make that bigger and let's get started. All right. So intro to AWS, implementing data warehouses on AWS. So what we'll be covering this webinar is how to set up your AWS account and the credit redemption that you have access to because you're a Udacity student. Then we'll move on to ETL for Amazon Redshift, then overview of the Redshift architecture, where to get the key and secret AWS that you will need for all your exercises, and how to open the dwh.cfg file where you need to input the key and secret AWS. And finally, where to get the Redshift cluster endpoint and IAM role ARN. Okay, so let's start with the AWS setup and credit redemption. So let me change my window to Safari. All right, so when you start lesson number 2, Introduction to the Cloud in AWS, here where it says set up your AWS account, which is lesson 2, step 4, you have all the steps to create your AWS account. So set up for an AWS account, it is free. It will ask you for your credit card, but it's just in case you exhaust all of your available credits, but the plan is not to do that. So just put your credit card, you will not be charged. And then we need to apply the credits, all right? So setting up your account is just really straightforward. Enter this link and it will ask you for the data, your credit card data. That's how that you're set. And to apply the credits, if you go here to resources in this tab in the left corner, there is a link to AWS credits. So you go there and it's a basic form. Oh, well, I'm already signed up, so we won't be able to see it. But it's a basic form that says that your school is Udacity, and it will ask you for your email address, and it will ask you for some information regarding your AWS account. And that information you get it here in my account. So let me show it to you. This is my AWS account. Once you're signed in, you just go here where is your name, your username, to my account, and here you'll find all the information that they are going to ask for you, which I think is the account ID. I cannot recall right now, but I think is the account ID. So that's basically all you need to enter. And what I suggest you do when you're filling out the form is to use the same email address that you use for everything Udacity, because I think that's the way they make sure that you are a student by the email address. So use the same one, it's just easier, and it may take up to 48 hours to receive the credit that you have approved credit, and it will give you you can enter, it will give you a code in an email, and you can just enter your code here in credits. So you just put in the promo code, you redeem it, and you can see, for example, right now I have $100 over here. So that's it. That's the how to set up your AWS account and how to redeem your credit. So you have $100 of credit because you are Udacity students. All right. So let's move on. Let me move back to the presentation. All right. So that is AWS setup and credit redemption. Now, and a little overview of how an ETL for Amazon Redshift works. So as we have seen during the lessons, Amazon Redshift is a data warehouse service. All right. So you basically can take all your operational data, transform it, and load it into data warehouse where it's optimized for analytical purposes. Right, where it can be queried very easily. And the way that works, as you can see here, we start with all our sources of data. And when you're in a big organization, you may have several sources of data. You may have a relational database, you may have a non-SQL database, you may even be working with Excel sheets, CSV files. So it's all over the place. So what you want to do first is you want to extract this data and put it in a staging phase, right? And this staging part of it, it's basically is going to be an Amazon S3 service that is going to hold all the information. It's going to collect information from all your sources of data into one big bucket. All right. So the way we do that is we have an EC2, and EC2 is basically a machine. It's a service that you hire from AWS, Amazon Web Services, and it's basically a server, a machine that will execute an order to collect all the data from your sources and to basically load it into an Amazon S3. So this S3 is for storage purposes only. All right. So this EC2 doesn't store any of your data. It just basically sends the order of all your data to be collected in these S3. And once you're in the staging part of the process, you're going to transform the data into different maybe tables that you want to use. Maybe you want to change some part of the data to make it easier to store in the data warehouses. And so from the S3, we're going to load it into the Redshift, Amazon Redshift, which is going to function as our data warehouse. And from there, you can even go a step further and maybe convert it into different types of tables or databases. But this is where it's going to end for us. So here in the examples, in the exercises of lesson 3, what we're going to do through an EC2, we're going to extract the information of an S3. So this S3 is going to function as the source of all of our data, all right? And the EC2 is going to extract the data from the S3 and send it to our bucket, our big bucket, where we're basically collecting all of our sources of data. And from there, we're going to send it to Redshift. So this Redshift needs to be able to connect to this S3, all right? And so that's what we're going to do during the exercises. Let's move on. All right, so Redshift architecture. Basically, Redshift is a collection, a cluster of nodes, all right? And you can think of a node as a server or as a computer, as a machine. And you have a leader machine, a leader node, a leader computer. And this is the one that basically communicates with your sources of data or our previous bucket of data. This is the one that makes all the communication, and it's the one that basically tells all the other computers what to do. So, and in Amazon, the basic computer, the one that we use most, is the EC2 instance. So you can think of an EC2 instance as a server. You can think of it as a computer. So you have 1 liter EC2 instance, or 1 liter computer, and you have all your other EC2 instances, and those will be your nodes, all right? Each node, it's an EC2 instance. And each EC2 instance has a certain amount of CPUs, all right? And the way Redshift works is that each CPU constitutes a slide of the node. And a slice is basically a partition of your table, all right? So basically we have your nodes, which are the computers that you have paid for, your EC2 instances, and each computer has a certain number of CPUs. And the number of CPUs determine the amount of partitions that you have available for your tables, all right? So it's really important that you, beforehand, you define how many partitions you need on your tables, and in that way you know the correct number of CPUs slices that you need, all right? And because, as you remember from the lessons, the way that data is loaded into Redshift is a parallel load, which is basically that all columns are being loaded at the same time, because you're loading 1 partition per slice, okay, which makes it like super, or quicker at least. All right, so that's Redshift architecture. Now, let's move on a bit of an overview of the exercises from lesson number 3. So lesson number 3, even though it might be considered a difficult lesson, it's also has all the, this is so far, it also has all the different resources that you need. All the solutions are available to you right there. So if you're stumbling with some part of the solution, I mean, it's okay to take a little look. So it's all right. Okay, so the first part of it is exercise 1. Basically tells you how to launch a Redshift cluster via just clicking on your dashboard. So it's really straightforward. You just enter the date, the information regarding your cluster, and it's done. But when we move on to exercise number 2, we're going to launch a cluster, but we're going to do it programmatically. We're going to write some code for it, okay? And the way it does it is that you are going to, through a user, you're going to create clients, an EC2, S3, IAM, and Redshift clients, right? So the first thing that you need to get started with this is having your AWS secret and access key, all right? So where do we get this? All right. So what we're going to do, this is your AWS management console. We're going to create an IAM user, all right? So you just write IAM, and once you have clicked there, it's going to take you to the Identity and Access Management Console dashboard, all right? Here on the left side, there is a users option, and here you're going to add a user. The standard name that you can use is DWH, Data Warehouses Admin. I've used that before, so I'm going to use that one as number 3. And here we're going to grant it programmatic access. And right here, next permissions. So here we're going to select attach existing policies directly, and we're going to give it administrator access. Once we're there, we move on to next tags. You can skip this page of tags. It's going to ask to review it, and you create the user. And right here is where you get access to your key and to your secret access key. All right, so this is the key and this is the secret AWS that you're going to require, you're required to have for all the exercises from this point forward. All right, so if you click here and show, it will show it to you. Or you can also download it via CSV. It's really important that you don't share this publicly, because if you share this publicly, basically you grant access to your AWS account. All right, so I'm not going to share it. And so that's how you get it. That's how you get your secret key, and that's how you get your key, and that's how you get your secret AWS. All right, so let's move on. Now, it says that we need to open the dwh.cfg file. All right, so how do we do that? So let's go back to Safari, and here, as you can see, it says that in that file, you need to set the key to the key that you had over here in your user, and set the secret to the secret access key that you have over here. So, but how can I access that file, right? So you can click here where it says Jupyter, or you can click here where it says open, and it will basically take, oh no, sorry. Let me try to load it again. All right, so start with open, and here's going to list all the files that are inside that same folder. So scroll down and look for the one that says dwh.cfg. And with the right click or just clicking on it, you can open it. All right. Now, I'm not going to open it because it would show my secret access key. But you can open it and you will see, I think it was this one. Right, and you will see a key equal, and you just paste your AWS key, and a secret equal, and then you paste your AWS secret. All right, and then don't forget to save the file, and that's it. You have updated your dwh.cfg file. All right, and then you're ready to move on through the different segments of code. So if you're struggling, like, where do I get this code from? It's basically everything is shown in the demos. All right. So the teacher makes a really good job of basically providing you step by step all the code that you need to set this up. So just make sure you're following the demo. And if you're like really struggling, it's fine to open this document, take a little look at it, and then go back and continue working on it. So you're going to create an IAM role, attach policy to it, get the IAM role IRN, then you're going to create the Redshift cluster over here. All right, this is all code that is shown in the demo. And then describe the cluster to show its status. And here, this one, this is cluster status, needs to say available before you can move on. And I think it says creating before it says available. And at least for me, it took 5 minutes, I think. So be patient over there. Here, you need to assign the endpoint and the role ARN. And that's basically it. For some reason, when I was working with this one, the endpoint didn't work because I didn't have any variables named that way. So I just changed this one to this variable, and it worked. And so if it's not working this way, maybe you can change this endpoint to this variable, right? Then open an incoming TCP port to access the cluster endpoint. Once again, this is discussed in the demos. And here you're connecting to the cluster. And This part over here, if you're planning on stopping your studying for the day, I suggest you do it. I mean, it basically is going to delete the cluster so that you don't get charged or anything. And but if you're going to keep working on the lesson that day, I mean, don't run this, right? Because we're going to use these resources in the next exercises. So I mean, I would just finish all the lessons and then maybe delete these resources, but and that's it. So let's move on. Then there's another demo about parallel ETL. So basically, parallel ETL, what we do is we're going to load our different. We're going to load like in the our table or our document. We're going to make it smaller by dividing it in many files. And we're going to load these many files at the same time. All right. So it's going to ask for your Redshift cluster endpoint, and it's going to ask for the IAM role ARN. All right. So where do you get these two? If you go back to exercise number 2, and we scroll all the way to step 2.2, this over here is where you get the endpoint and the role ARN. All right. So save them, and you're going to use them over here. All right. So you fill those here in the DWH endpoint and DWH role ARN, and you continue. You're going to connect to Redshift cluster. Then you're going to start creating tables. Once again, all of this code is shown in the demo. And then we're going to load partition data into the cluster. So you're going to copy the table. And here, basically what we're doing, there is no file name part, but this is going to serve as our prefix. And as you can see over here in my bucket, in this bucket, sampledb bucket, all of these files have the prefix part. So since they share the same prefix, AWS knows that this is like the same file that is being partitioned in many smaller files, and it's going to load them in parallel at the same time. All right. And then here we do it again, but we basically do it for the full file just to check, like, to make it clear that it's faster to upload it via many smaller files than just load the full file. And we're going to create tables for the non-partition data, then load no partition data into the cluster. Once again, we copy it, and that's it. All right. Then we have some other lessons about optimizing table design, distribution style, sorting keys, and we go back to this exercise 4, which is table design. Once again, here in table design, you will be needing the Redshift cluster endpoint and the IAM role ARN. You know where to get this now, and you just paste them over here. You're going to connect to the Redshift cluster. You're going to create these tables. Right. Then we create tables with the distribution strategy in the D schema. And here we're establishing the distribution strategy, the distribution style. And we're going to copy these tables and automate the copy. And right here, the insertion twice for each schema. In this part, this says it can take more than 10 minutes. And it is true, all right? So you need to be patient. I started mine like an hour ago, and it just finished before we started the webinar. So be patient in that. It does take like an hour, right? And then you have like some plots to show you the loading time, like the difference. And that's basically it, all right? So those are the lessons. You are connecting to the user that you created here in AWS. You're making a Redshift cluster. So this is the real deal, all right? And hopefully this provided like a bit of overview of the parts that I thought were a little bit tricky. And hopefully now you're fully equipped to basically tackle all these lessons. And what I suggest you do, finish these lessons during this weekend, for example, maybe no further than this Tuesday. And in that way, you'll have 2 weeks. This says 2 months, but it's not updated because it's my dashboard. But you will have 2 more weeks to work on Project Data Warehouse. So this one is due, I think, on May 30th. So you have like 15 days to work on it. And that's why I suggest you finish these lessons. This Tuesday seems like a good idea, like a good plan to start working on the project, to have 2 weeks to work on it. And next webinar, I'll provide some tips to work on the project, or I'll dive deeper into any other subject that you need to get a better grasp on. So this is today's webinar. I hope that you find it helpful. And don't forget that you can reach me and through Slack, all right? So the DEND session, once again, if you have any questions regarding any lessons, whatever you need, just post your queries here and I will answer them, or maybe a classmate can jump in. And don't forget that you also have access to one-on-one mentor meetings with me. This is my Calendly account. It's the same that we've used all this time. There I'll have all my available slots. Just select one and just log in Slack, and I will call you at that time. So it's really, really simple. All right, guys. So have a great learning week. Enjoy your weekend and see you soon. Thank you very much. Goodbye.